In this lesson, I'm going to teach you about some linear isolations with poi and how they work and some of the shapes we can make. We're going to work up to these two patterns, both of which have my arms moving in a vertical line and my poi shooting out to the sides. That's the first one. And here's the same direction version of the same move. The best way to do it is to break it down with one poi first. This is what the linear isolation looks like. I'm going to start with my hand up high, spinning in a circle. And when the poi reaches this point at the bottom of its orbit, I'm going to let it go out to the side, almost like a pendulum, and then bring my hand down in a line. So from the top, the poi hits this point, it comes out to the side, and I lower my hand. So I'm taking the poi from one upper circle to one lower circle with this movement that feels a lot like a pendulum. Now to do the same thing going upwards, I wait for this central point again, right in the middle of my chest, and let the poi go out to the side and bring my arm upwards. So here it is from top to bottom. This will take a little bit of practice. But if you notice what my body is doing, my hand is simply moving in a line from top to bottom. So the difficulty is not in what you do with your body, it's in when to do the move. The timing of the move is critical. So when the poi points toward where you're going, that's when you move. Also notice that the plane of the poi is pretty close to my chest. If I have my hand way out in front of me, I can't get as much movement and it's actually harder to execute the move. So keep your plane close to your chest. So practice this in both directions and with both hands. When you can do it comfortably with each hand independently, you're ready for two poi. So to do two of them at the same time, one of the best ways to practice two at once is to have your poi in together time, same direction, like this. Then each hand does exactly the same thing, and one hand copies the other. So the one we're going to work on now is a split time opposite direction, or split time butterfly, with one hand high and one hand low. This is the starting point with the poi meeting in the center, right in front of my chest. If you practice in a mirror and it looks like this, that means your timing is wrong. You see how the poi are not meeting in front of my chest? I need to get the split time going, which feels like my hands moving towards each other and away from each other in this rhythm. That's what's creating that split time rhythm with the poi meeting in the center. If this is difficult, do this for a long time. It's a very good exercise. Again, notice how close the poi are to my chest. This is a really good position to get comfortable in, both with the right hand on top and with the left hand on top. This is the basis for doing the two linear isolations at once. So I watch that point at the center where the poi heads meet, and when they get to that point, I let them move out to the side and I switch my hands up and down. From the central point, switch the hands up and down. This opposite direction version is this sort of a condensed version of the four-pedal anti-spin that we all know and love. You can see here how my arms are moving out to the sides and creating a circle. If I condense this shape and make my hands move less and less from side to side until they just make a line, that is the shape we're practicing. It has the same number of poi orbits in its cycle, but the hands are just moving up and down. Now we'll try that move in split time, same direction. So your poi are like wheels rolling in the same direction. One hand is high, one hand is low. Again, it really pays off to get comfortable with this starting point. As long as you have to drill this, that's fine. You want to be very comfortable here, at the extent of your range of motion, with your plane nice and close to your chest and your poi meeting exactly in the center, with either hand on top. So from this starting position, watching the central point, switch your hands in the line to create the linear isolation. If your timing is even with both hands, you'll notice they line up in the center, very similar to if you were doing an isolation. It has this moment of connectedness, very similar to this pattern. So from here I'll do half of an extension, like a piece of a giant windmill, and then the linear isolation through the center. Extension, linear isolation. This has a really nice effect with fire, because you get the big circle followed by a bunch of light right on your face, so it creates a dramatic visual effect with the light and shadow. So now if I go the other way with my arms, I'll go from the linear isolation through an anti-spin. Anti-spin, linear isolation, anti-spin, linear isolation. So those are some of my favorite linear isolation shapes. There are a lot more, and we've only covered some of them because linear isolations can also be done with your hand moving horizontally. So there's lots to play with, but those I find are shapes that look really good. They're also easy to get into if you've never tried this before. So practice a lot. Don't be surprised if it takes you more than an hour or more than a day. But developing these techniques will really help as your poi skills advance and doing some of the more difficult moves. I'll be teaching a lot of workshops around this year at festivals and retreats and other workshops. So follow some of the links below and check out where I'll be and come join me for some classes.